Hi, I'm Jess,
Hi, I'm Kristen.
and this is ReDIScover, a conversation where we travel through everything that makes up the essence of who we are and how to live authentically and imaginatively.
Here, we invite you to join us as we explore and discuss a little bit of, well, everything.
From Disney to cultivating your most authentic life to deepening your relationships and talking about the real stuff.
We hope you'll find this a space that speaks to you, encourages you, and brings a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of ReDIScover. We are continuing September. We have our second episode of the month. As you guys know, we have switched to a bi-weekly schedule now. So we thought we would make the second episode of this month about something that is also very close to our hearts, which is both of our hometowns, Buffalo, New York.
And I think that this is the best time of year to talk about our hometown because there is nothing more beautiful than autumn in New York. But we're going to talk about some things you can do in Buffalo all year round, whenever you decide to visit. I thoroughly recommend abstaining from January. But if you need a little weekend getaway or a little road trip and you live kind of in the northeast of the US, or even if you don't live in the Northeast, there are always cheap flights to Buffalo. So we're going to take you through some of our favorite things to do, favorite places to see and visit. And of course, we're going to tell you all the best places to eat because Buffalo has some very quirky, fun, unique foods that you can only find there. So we're sort of like a little culture in and of ourselves.
Buffalo is a very, very special place. I would definitely say that our highlight is the food options. There is nowhere in the United States or in the world that I've found that has the type of food Buffalo has. It is so good. You will find lots of favorites here. Like Kristen said, if you need a fun place to go for a quick visit, or, you know, if you want to do a deep dive and stay longer, Buffalo is a great place to go. We're going to give you enough info in this episode to fill up any visit that you have here because there's so much to do and you would never even know.
The culture is very much like friendly and welcoming, but also like no BS. Like,
yeah,
Buffalonians are very friendly people. We're literally called the city of good neighbors. Like,
people will talk to you all the time.
Yeah, people will talk to you. They'll come up to you and say hi. They'll know somebody that you know, like guaranteed. And it makes it feel like an even smaller city. It's a great place to grow up. I think both of us had so many just fun, carefree days of like having to use our imaginations because like we would have all four seasons and you're outside all the time, no matter what the season is. So you kind of become very resilient. I think that's the other like hallmark of a Buffalonian. They're very resilient people because they live through the brutal winter. And if you are familiar with the geography of New York at all, you know that Buffalo is on the very western side, very, very close to Canada. And right on Lake Erie, literally, some of us live right on Lake Erie. And for that reason, we get lake effect snow. So we have known some pretty epic blizzards in our lifetime. And our parents have known even more. So it makes you tough. It makes you resilient. You learn how to drive in the snow. So you feel like you're invincible. And yeah, you just sort of like grow up with this idea that like, well, you can just like, you can talk to anyone, you can be friends with anyone. It's such a friendly, welcoming place.
Yeah, people are very down to earth and grounded here. And you might hear somebody's life story like within 2 minutes of meeting them. It's like that kind of town.
Yeah.
Which I think is so amazing because I don't know a lot of places like that anymore. So
yeah,
it has a very hometowny feel. A lot of the people who live here grew up here and kind of stayed forever. I have a lot of family like that. Kind of hence my opposite approach to life of wanting to go everywhere else. But the good thing about it is that it does sort of stay similar over time. Of course, there are like changes of restaurants or places or whatever, and a lot of growth. Buffalo is growing, which is great. Yeah. But it always does feel like home no matter how long you are away from it.
Yeah, there's been a huge like overhaul of the infrastructure of Buffalo in the last like I'd say 5 to 10 years, and it's really becoming a destination city. Even as I've lived away and have come back to visit and
Hmm.
moved back for a year and a half, I was like, "Oh, wow, experiencing the city as an adult is totally different and that's also just totally new." And I think that's just so awesome, and it does boost the morale of the entire city as well. And it's just a place that it really is like coming home. We're going to like take you through basically what we would do if we were tourists in our own city. We're rediscovering Buffalo, the place we grew up,
Exactly.
the place we became friends, where we went to school. And now that we are both kind of like branching off and doing other things, it's nice to recenter and rediscover the place that started it all,
The place
that
that made us who we are.
the place that made little dreamers out of us. So I think we should get started with like the core attractions.
Yes. So we're just going to kind of go through them briefly and see what resonates with you. And you can add them to your little Buffalo to-do list. The first thing that we have to mention that is definitely one of Buffalo's pillars is our Buffalo sports teams. So we have the Buffalo Bills for football. We have the Buffalo Sabres for hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And for our minor league baseball team, we have the Buffalo Bisons. So I grew up in a very sports centered family. I'm the only one who's not like super hardcore into that, but my dad and my brother are hardcore Buffalo fans. They will go to as many games as they possibly can. And the culture around all of these sports teams, but especially the Buffalo Bills, is just unlike anything I've ever seen. Buffalonians really come together. And I think one of the funniest things about Buffalo Bills culture is that Buffalonians will tailgate for like anything. Like
Yeah.
it has just become a thing. I see people tailgating for every Buffalo Bills game, but then like if there's a concert, they'll be tailgating. If there's a
Yeah.
show, they'll be tailgating. If there's a first communion, they'll be tailgating.
Yeah.
So
It's so true.
heard the rumors of people like jumping on tables and
Yep.
breaking tables, and that's
Setting them
true.
on fire.
Setting them on fire, setting themselves on fire. Yeah, I have coworkers who've done that like within the past week. So
Crazy.
yeah,
There's a
Buffalo
reason.
sports is wild.
There's a reason they call it the Bills Mafia, but that's truly like everyone's favorite time of year. Like autumn in Buffalo is beautiful, but it's also the start of football season. And in recent years, our football team has actually gotten pretty dang good. I mean, I've been to tailgates that start at like 7:30 in the morning, and people are sure like they're like getting out their little like portable grills and making like bacon, egg, and cheeses, like breakfast sandwiches, and then drinking at 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, oh my God, these people are hardcore.
Yeah.
And while I am not quite that hardcore, it's so much fun and it's just part of the experience. And I would say if you are visiting Buffalo during football season and you can snag some tickets, and I was about to call it New Era Field, but it's been renamed yet again.
Oh my
Highmark
gosh.
Stadium.
Highmark Stadium. That's the new name as of this year.
It's just a blast. So I would say just drink like 4 shots of espresso and you'll be good for the day, but it's very high energy, ton of fun. And yeah, I grew up going to Bills games with my dad and my brother, and every Sunday was like football Sunday. It was like church.
Still
like,
is.
Your whole afternoon is just dedicated to the game. And there's something very comforting about that. And then obviously hockey is pretty big for us too, considering how close we are to Canada. But I think it's just up north, hockey is way more popular than it is in the South for sure.
Yeah.
But even going to like a Bison's game, like our minor league baseball team, is so
fun. The food is really good at the stadium too, because they have local vendors and restaurants supplying the food there, which are places that we're going to mention as like standalone restaurants. But it's great because, it's not your typical plain old stadium food.
Yeah. And if you're not a sports fan, which like we get, there is still an opportunity to get some culture while you're in Buffalo. And we do have a theater called Shays.
It's amazing.
Where you can see the touring cast of whatever Broadway shows are touring the country right now. So, Jess, I know you just saw Frozen. very
Yes,
recently.
the national tour will come through Shays, and
Yes.
they announced their whole lineup,
Mhm.
as do, most big theaters. But yeah, Frozen just came to town. I saw it twice within 4 days. I am crazy and I love it. And the thing about Shays is it it feels like a real Broadway theater. It
It
is
does.
so beautiful. The
Mhm.
details are immaculate and it's so charming, and the culture of Buffalo shines through again because you get the whole theater crowd and lots of families and
Yeah.
lots of like older couples and young couples and like everybody. It's
Yeah.
just a really nice coming together. And I'm so glad theater's back.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. And some other things, culturally, I guess while we're in the like arts and culture of Buffalo, so
Yes.
definitely hitting up Shays for sure. There's also some smaller theaters. Most notably, one that I've been to is right over in the theater district called the Irish Classical Theater, and it's a theater in
Mm-hmm.
the round, and it's really cool. And it's smaller shows put on by local actors, and they're phenomenal. They're generally like Irish, obviously Irish plays. There's a huge Irish culture in Buffalo, so that's very well represented there. Buffalo is a melting pot of cultures, and I think that's really, really cool to see. But there's a lot of Irish Americans, a lot of Italian Americans
Yep.
represent, and
Yep.
a lot of Polish Americans as well. So,
That's
like, a
exactly
lot of
it.
good food holidays and a lot of drinking holidays, and
Yeah.
just a lot of really vibrant personalities. And I think that that's part of what makes Buffalo so cool. Culturally, definitely those two theaters. The Albright Knox Art Gallery is really beautiful. And at Delaware Park, there is the Buffalo History Museum. Walkable from the History Museum, there's a Japanese garden, which in the springtime is covered in beautiful cherry blossoms. And it's actually like one of the only, there's only like 10 or 12, I think, Japanese gardens in the country. And that's one of them, which I didn't know until recently. Definitely something to check out. And it's all sort of in one area. Buffalo is a very drivable city. I think that's something to note. Like, you don't have to park your car and walk. You can absolutely drive everywhere. There's always parking. Like,
There's always parking. That is
it's
one of
so
the
easy.
highlights of this city.
Yeah.
When I moved away and there wasn't parking everywhere, I had no idea. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we have it so good in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So,
Getting around is so easy, and the
yeah.
traffic is never really that terrible, especially if you come from a bigger city where you're used to like standstill traffic. This is
Yeah.
a lot easier to navigate.
So, going off the topic of shows a little bit, there is a drive-in theater,
Yes.
one of the last standing drive-in theaters in the country. But that is called the Transit Drive-In, and it's just fantastic. It is like a classic drive-in. They have multiple screens. I think there's 4 different ones. They even play the old retro commercials beforehand. They usually do double features. So you'll get 2 movies for the price of one. So you can pack up the back of your car, bring some snacks, get stuff from the snack bar there, and make a whole night out of it. And Kristen and I used to go together in high
Yeah.
school. It was like one of our little activities. We saw Brave
Yeah.
there, and I think Cars 2,
All the Disney movies we saw. I think,
Winnie the
didn't we see
Pooh.
the Avengers there as well? Am I dating us?
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
so.
even know, but
I think we
um,
did.
such a fun night out. So definitely, if you love drive-ins, like there is one here, which is amazing.
Yeah. Kind of like further out, but still within Buffalo proper, if you will, is the Buffalo Outer Harbor, which I know we have
Yes,
a lot to talk about there.
it's like shockingly wonderful. If you've never been, and if you've lived here for a long time and are coming back, because I remember couple, I guess it was last year during quarantine, that was like the first time I'd really seen it, and I was like blown away. It's right along the water. There's bike paths, there's tons of places for, if you want to have a picnic or you want to just have a little gathering. They have hammocks there, they have little like food trucks there. It's just, especially in the summer, it is like the perfect outing.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about being just down on the waterfront is in the summertime, there's something called Shuck Shack, which is this like portable, like it's literally a food truck, but it only happens on weekends in the summer. And they'll announce it on their Instagram and stuff. So you can kind of like see when the first weekend is, but it's literally like oysters, which I love, fresh oysters. So it's like oysters and lobster rolls and shrimp and like seafood and stuff. And you can get like a bottle of wine for your table or a pitcher of beer or whatever. And so it kind of becomes fairly economical for something like that. And there's picnic tables. There's usually like a DJ. You can see the people kayaking on the river. It's just fun. So you can go and get like a dozen oysters, split a couple lobster rolls. We usually do like a bottle of rosé because it's me, but like it's just a fun afternoon. You get to be outside and there's music.
Summer in Buffalo is the season where the city comes alive. Fall really is amazing and it's cozy, but summer is aliveness. Everybody comes out of the woodwork and goes to places like the Outer Harbor and does fun activities like that.
Because summer is so short there, people really do like soak it up. They spend every moment outside that they can. Another fun place to go in the summer is there's this place called Mississippi Muds and Old Man River. And it's just, again, like classic, like burgers and hot dogs and like curly fries and milkshakes and ice cream and stuff. But I have so many memories of going there in the summer as a kid and watching the musicians play. And we'd go down, climb the rocks on the river and sit on the rocks by the river and eat ice cream and watch the sunset. And so it's just kind of like a fun thing to do if you've got a big family or if you've got kids, or even if you just want like a cute, nostalgic summer date night or something. And then a little bit further up the river, literally, is Niagara Falls, which is very close. If you are in downtown Buffalo, it's like 25 minutes to drive up to Niagara Falls. And growing up, I lived about 10 minutes tops from the falls. So we used to go all of the time, and we'd go to the American side. We'd go to the Canadian side. Probably not going to talk too much about Canada right now, just because the Canadian border is still closed. But just know that if you are in Niagara Falls, the Canadian side,
bring your passport.
Yeah, bring your passport.
You can go
for sure when you can go again. The views are totally different. They're totally unique on both sides. So I would recommend definitely seeing both if you're going to make the journey and if the border is open when you go.
Yeah. Niagara Falls is such a popular destination. So if you do come to Buffalo, it's like, I personally bring everyone that comes to visit me up here to Niagara Falls because you're never going to be that close to it anywhere else. So it's really, really beautiful. The falls are unlike anything you're ever going to see. There are a lot of activities that you can do. You can ride the Maid of the Mist boat ride, and that will take you in this really big boat and it'll take you right up to the falls so you can have a very close view to it. They also have a Canadian version of that as well. I believe it's called the Horn Blower, but they do give you ponchos because you are very much in the wet zone.
We love a poncho moment.
We love a poncho. But yeah, I would recommend, out of the two, I prefer the Canada side, but I do love the American side as well. So if the border is closed, you forgot your passport, whatever, do not worry. The American side is amazing. There's still activities to do, at least the Maid of the Mist. If you can make it to both sides, do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was just there for the day. My stepdad and I went up there and we had a great time. We walked all down like Terrapin Point and we walked up along these like walking trails that he knew about. And he had like all this history and knowledge of like Goat Island, which is the island where you can like drive onto to actually go right up to the falls. And this is a splash zone, kids. I should let you know, even if you don't do the Maid of the Mist or the Cave of the Winds, shout out to Jim and Pam from The Office. You will get wet just like standing along like the guardrail and looking over the falls, especially if the wind's blowing in your direction. We were like quite drenched and it was a very hot day. So it actually felt really good, but just be warned. So I know this is about Buffalo, but it's so close. It's so close. Like if you're going to come to Buffalo, you've got to go to Niagara Falls.
So continuing on that theme, those were our main like highlights of things to do, but we also have some parks that we recommend visiting. And a lot of these are close to Buffalo, but are a little bit of a drive as well. So I'm going to start with Letchworth State Park.
Yes.
That's like the park everybody goes to who lives here. A lot of kids we went to school with, I feel like, would go there every year with their family.
Yep. I was one of them.
Yep. It's so beautiful. I didn't discover it until quarantine. So,
oh my gosh, wait, really?
I feel like
you had never been there?
No. Well, we always went to Allegheny, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Letchworth is so beautiful, especially in the fall with the leaves. But the first time we actually went there was in March 2020, and it was still a bit frozen over. And even with, all the leaves off the trees and the ice coming onto the branches and everything, it was still so beautiful. So I have to say that park is absolutely gorgeous no matter what season you are visiting in. They have waterfalls, they have hiking trails, they have gorgeous views. It is
Yeah.
lovely there.
Yeah, it's called the Grand Canyon of the East. And if you go, you will understand why. There's a massive gorge and there are waterfalls coming down and just the cliffs on either side. But then on top of that, unlike at the actual Grand Canyon, are trees. So in the autumn, those trees are just a million shades of orange and red and yellow. And it's gorgeous. And we used to go a lot for sure. That was one of the places we would take family who came to visit from other states. And I'm actually planning to go in a few weeks. So somewhere in there, because that to me is just like the pinnacle of autumn. And I'm really, really craving those warm, cozy vibes. So I'm very excited to see it again. I haven't been in a few years. But yeah, that's just about like an hour south of Buffalo ish.
Yeah, it's really not
a
too
long
far.
Drive. Yeah,
but so worth it.
Allegheny is a little bit further.
Yes,
but equally beautiful.
So beautiful. And Allegheny, I think, is actually a lot bigger.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
You could get lost in there. There are so many trails, so many areas. When I was younger, my family would rent a cabin and we would stay up there for a whole weekend, and it was a family trip. And we did it multiple times. We'd bring our cousins up there, or we'd invite friends, or it would just be us. We'd bring the dog. It was a whole thing. But it's so cozy and it's just so beautiful, especially in the fall. Like my dad would make a little bonfire out back, and then we'd go hiking all day. And we would stay in the Quaker area and do hikes around there. One of the main highlights that I remember is called Thunder Rocks. And you just see these huge, gigantic rocks all in this area. It's like kind of like a rock city, they call it. So yeah, it's really cool. That. Yeah.
We used to go camping there when I was a kid. Yeah. We were probably there at the same time, Jess. We just had no idea. But we used to go camping there, and we had like mountain bikes. I put that in air quotes because I was a child. So I don't know if there's such a thing as a child version of a mountain bike, but my parents had them, and we would bike those hills. And I just remember we'd go to the top and we would just fly down those hills, and it was so fun. But yeah, in the summer and in the autumn, even, it's so beautiful up there. But yeah, we had a camper, and we would go. We visited a lot of state parks in New York. We would go to the Finger Lakes, which is more central New York, Letchworth, Allegheny. But yeah, those views are pretty beautiful, and it's just simplicity. Like the nostalgia of our childhood is very much rooted in that. I think when you think of Buffalo and the surrounding areas, because there's no Disney World, there's no like New York City near us. Like we got outside, we got dirty, and we used our imaginations. We made up games with our cousins and our friends, and that was our childhood. And I would not trade that for anything. It was
me neither.
Magical in a way that can only exist when you're that young. So I'm very thankful for that. But you can always rediscover it as an adult, which is why we're here.
Simplicity is absolutely the word I would use to describe our childhoods there. It just strips away everything, all the excess like stimulation and the need to do things. And it wasn't doing, it was being, and just simple. And I think that's why I just love my childhood so much, because of that feeling. So thank you, Buffalo.
Thank you, Buffalo. Wow. We love you. All right. Well, after all that hiking and biking,
those activities,
rolling around in the grass, you're going to be hungry. So let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to Buffalo proper, which is not actually a term that's used to describe Buffalo ever. I'm just referring to the actual city of Buffalo. And let's talk about food, because I think this is going to take up the bulk of this episode.
So the thing about Buffalo, like I mentioned at the beginning, is that Buffalo has a lot of specific foods to this region that other places don't. So when Buffalo kids move out into the world, they realize that these things don't exist everywhere
Yeah.
else.
Whenever I talk about our grocery store, Wegmans, people are
Yes.
like, okay, so it's a grocery store. I'm like, you do not understand.
Yeah. If you've ever been to Wegmans, you know what we're talking about. I call it the Disney World of grocery stores because I just think it's that good. Wegmans
Yep.
has everything. It
That's true.
has, all the fresh produce, all the fresh like meats, normal foods, whatever. But then, they have their marketplace area. So you can actually eat there.
Yeah.
They have subs, they have pizza, they have stations of all different foods.
Yeah.
They have like a ton of pre-made stuff that you can bring home that's actually really good and fresh. They have, a little home section with really cute items. They have a merchandise section with all this Buffalo merchandise.
Yeah.
Like it's so great.
Yeah. It's almost like set up like a Whole Foods if you think of that, like where like half the store is the actual grocery, and then there's like the health and wellness stuff, and then there's the like prepared foods and all of that stuff. But then there is that addition of like, here's some like kitchenwares and housewares, and here's like all the Buffalo merch you could ever want. And it is kind of wild, but it's just like one of my favorite things to do when I come home is just go to Wegmans and like see what's new. But I think there's some classics that like if you go to Wegmans, like groceries aside, like more of the prepared foods, the cult favorite is the Wegmans sub. If you are from the South, you've probably been to Publix and you've had a pub sub. Yeah, step aside pub sub. You're good and all. I do enjoy you, but like a Wegmans sub,
we're gonna ruffle some feathers with that one.
I will die on that hill. That's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, Steven can attest to this too. He grew up with Publix, and then I introduced him to Wegmans, and I think he's been converted. So, Floridians, watch out. Wegmans has
Wegmans coming for you.
I know.
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing about Wegmans too is that depending on the store, like there are some stores that are more elaborate and have like 2 floors and seating areas, and sometimes have live music. That's like a theme in Buffalo.
It's like an afternoon. Just spend the whole afternoon there.
It's a whole event.
Yeah.
Like even for my 8th birthday, I got to pick a restaurant I wanted to go to, and I chose going to Wegmans.
And no, you did it.
Yeah. Like I'm a Wegmans kid.
I'm a Wegmans girl.
Oh my God. It's just
man. Yeah. I remember when I was younger, they had that like Wegmans like daycare basically where your parents could drop you off while they shopped, and I refused to go. I was like, no, I'm going grocery shopping, and I would help my mom grocery shop. I never once went in that thing.
Oh, I did.
I was like, and miss all the fun? What?
I went to the kids club, and it was so fun.
I bet it was, but I was
we watched Disney movies. There was like a jungle gym play thing. We got to make crafts and color. Oh my God, it was a blast.
I never went because I was like, no, I'm not missing this. But I also like, as a child, wanted to be a chef when I grew up. So I think like being around the food was like
that's fair,
more enjoyable for me. The standout thing is the Wegmans sub, but even like the sushi, the prepared stuff, the
sushi's like, great.
And it's like not grocery store sushi. It's like good sushi.
Yeah.
It just can do no wrong. Even their brand, this is going to sound like so basic of me, but their brand of seltzers, like we have LaCroix, we have like the Michael Bublé brand, Polar, whatever. The Wegmans brand of seltzers is kind of better than all of those, like in my opinion. They are really good. Yeah. And they're usually cheaper too because it's the store brand. So
yeah, their store brand Wegmans stuff is actually pretty decent across the board, as I've noticed. Because sometimes you can buy like, I don't know, the Tops brand or like, I don't know.
Publix brand. Yeah.
Yeah. And those don't always live up to par, but the Wegmans one is decent. Yeah. As far as I've noticed. So
if you're not down for grocery shopping while you're visiting, and that's fine, we've got some other niche Buffalo foods that you absolutely need to try.
Get ready.
And I'm going to go a little out of order just because it's autumn, and my parents live 10 minutes down the road from this place. And so we go a lot. The Mayer Brothers cider mill. Now I know what you're thinking. If any of you grew up up north anywhere, you probably, like if you grew up in Michigan or New York or Pennsylvania or whatever, there might be an apple cider mill near you. Yeah. let me talk to you about Mayer Brothers for a second. They have started opening in August because the demand is so high. And they can start pressing apples kind of around that point anyway. And it will stay open through the weekend, like the week of Thanksgiving. The day before Thanksgiving is their last day of the season. And they have apple cider donuts with like every type of variation. There's some with cinnamon sugar and some just with like the glaze. Those are the best ones, just the glazed apple cider donuts. And just all the different kinds. They also have just regular donuts too. They bake pies. They have turnovers. They have like a grocery store in there with all these like local New York, cheeses and things like that. And you can buy a quart or a gallon of their apple cider. And you can also get an apple cider slushy, which I love those until it gets like too cold outside. And then I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. But the apple cider slushy at the beginning of the season when it's still warm outside, and an apple cider donut, like breakfast of champions. If you're ever in the Buffalo area, it's a little bit south of the city. But again, driving is so easy. There's very little traffic. It's probably 20-minute drive outside of the city. Yeah. And you can stop and grab some donuts.
That's something to note, is that Buffalo is sort of rooted in the surrounding areas. Like, of course, there's the downtown area, and I think that's what people are mostly used to when they go to visit a city. But honestly, the best things in Buffalo are not in the city center. They're kind of out in the suburb areas.
Yep, that's true.
In the offshoot towns. So just be aware of that. You definitely want a car if you're going to be here.
Yes, for sure. Rent a car, drive your car.
All right. So moving on to, so these are like specific foods that are specific to the region. The first one being pizza logs. This is like the appetizer that Buffalo has that everyone is shocked that doesn't exist elsewhere.
It's like the bar food. Like you order mozzarella sticks. No. You order pizza logs.
They're like pizza filled spring rolls. I think
they're like egg rolls. They're like egg rolls. It's like egg roll wrapper. And on the inside is like sauce, cheese, and pepperoni. And then Delicious. You dunk it in marinara sauce.
Literally get this. And they have it at, I would say, most restaurants. It is
like every like sports bar and brewery. They all have like a variation of it, but it's
so good. The next thing on our list is a beef on weck, which is a roast beef sandwich on a kimmelwick roll. That's where weck comes from, the word kimmelwick. So the roll has it
has caraway seeds and sea salt
and salt. Yeah. And you put some horseradish on it.
It sounds kind of gross when you describe it, but
it's delicious.
It's so good.
And they have them all over as well.
Yeah, definite bar food for sure.
Yeah.
I think both of those are some quintessential bar food. And Buffalo bar culture is very real. Like our last call is like 4 a.m. Like people go hard for this stuff. So they need like these substantial foods to eat very late at night. So like a beef on weck, also during Bills games for sure. Beef on weck, pizza logs, and most notably wings. Not buffalo wings, just wings.
Chicken
wings or wings. Like I think we just call them wings. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows what you're talking about. And yes, you can get a barbecue wing or like a garlic parmesan or something, but that's not what you're going to do. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to East Aurora, New York. East Aurora, New York is about 20 minutes, 25 minutes south of Buffalo. Cute little town, adorable, walkable. I used to live right in the village.
It's the best.
So much to do. It's honestly like my favorite experience of all the places in Buffalo that I've lived. And I think I had like 4 residences during my years living in Buffalo. My apartment in East Aurora was by far and away my favorite place that I lived because I could walk everywhere and I could walk to this place called Barbill. Mm-hmm. If you've been to Buffalo or if you've heard about Buffalo, you've probably heard about Barbill. Barbill has 2 locations now, one north of the city, one in East Aurora. East Aurora is the original. I think it's the most like charming. And it's small, but the vibes are immaculate.
Truly.
They will have all of those quintessential Buffalo foods, but they have the best wings in the city. And Basically, our scale in Buffalo is you just order wings and then you order them either mild, medium, or hot. That's it. Those are the only questions. You don't have to say buffalo sauce. You don't have to say buffalo wings. If you say, I want 10 wings, medium, they know exactly what to do. You're going to get blue cheese. If you ask for ranch, you will be kicked out. You will be sent away from the city. Don't you dare do that. If you don't like blue cheese, then you're just going to eat the wing by itself. I'm sorry. That's just the rules. I don't make the rules. Those are just the rules. The mayor asked me to say that.
The Buffalonians.
This episode is sponsored by Visit Buffalo. I'm kidding. It's really not. But you cannot watch a Bills game and not eat a wing. Like, it's just not a thing. I didn't mean to rhyme, but that's just how it is.
Yeah. And so when you go to Bar-Bill, because you need to go to Bar-Bill if you're going to get wings from anywhere.
Yeah.
You can do your Buffalo smorgasbord order there. I'll tell you what we get. This is what we bring our friends to when they come from out of town. We literally did this last Friday. We order wings at Bar-Bill. I'd go for the medium. We got hot for Steven and the boyfriend of the friend we were hosting, and their mouths were on fire. And
yeah, hot is no joke.
These boys can handle heat. I would go with medium or mild, but medium is like my go-to.
Yeah, me too.
Then an order of pizza logs, and then a beef on wax sandwich. And then for drinks, I would recommend the Hay Burner IPA, which is from Big Ditch, but Bar-Bill has it. And then also the Ellicottville blueberry beer with extra blueberries because they put real blueberries in it. So that is my personal Buffalo smorgasbord at Bar-Bill. That is like 100% win in my eyes. So yeah, I recommend.
And there are plenty of, I think it's worth it to note at this point, there are plenty of places to get wings in Buffalo. Obviously the Anchor Bar is the original place. That is where Buffalo wings were invented. It's a classic. Also a place called Duff's Chicken Wings, which I believe Obama went to and gave his blessing to, which is my favorite fact about Duff's.
That's hilarious.
I think that I don't want to say every Buffalonian would agree, but I think the overwhelming majority of Buffalonians would agree that the best wings are at Bar-Bill. You can get takeout, but if you're trying to get takeout on game day, you better be calling right when they open because they will get super, super busy. And there are also a lot of pizza places around the city that you can get wings from because that's the other thing about Buffalo. You can't just, the pizza for sure, but you can't just order a pizza. Like you order a pizza and wings.
Yes.
And so I moved away from Buffalo and then there were people ordering pizzas and I was like, but where are the wings? And nobody knew what I was talking about. And I was like, wait a minute, you don't get wings with your pizza? Like what? There was never a birthday party you went to as a kid. There was never a bowling alley you went to. There was never an after school club meeting where there wasn't pizza and wings. It is just like, it's peanut butter and jelly, kids. I cannot express this more.
With blue cheese on the side.
With blue cheese. And they will give you the carrots and ranch, which is like, balance or whatever. But for those of you who don't know, Buffalo pizza is sort of like not anything else. It's not New York style pizza. It's not a thin crust pizza. It's a thicker crust pizza, which definitely there's a time and a place for that. It's almost like a grandma pie thickness, if you know what that is, like those square slices that are thicker. But you can get it as a round pizza or as a sheet. So the dough is going to be thick. There is like a little bit of a crispiness to the dough as well. Like the edges are a little crispy and then it's just doughy in the middle. And that's just slathered with sauce, mozzarella, and pepperoni cups, which is the pepperoni that curves up on the edges. So it holds all the grease, which sounds disgusting. And it is in the middle. Everything about it is just brilliant. And you dunk it in blue cheese because why not? At that point, why not?
It's so good. And everybody has their own personal favorite places to get pizza in Buffalo. Yeah. There are so many, like endless amounts of pizza places. That's why when people go to like Domino's or Pizza Hut around here, I'm like, what are you doing?
No, I don't even eat pizza here in Florida. It's just not even worth it. I save my pizza appetite for when I go home.
Yeah. And I think my personal favorites at the moment are La Nova is a pizza place.
Multiple locations as well.
Multiple locations. That's what I was going to mention. A new favorite of mine is Imperial Pizza.
Oh, so good.
really good. I just discovered that this summer and I'm like, where have I been?
Yeah.
Um, and I have a personal love for Pasquale's, and that's an Italian restaurant, but their pizza is really delicious.
Yeah. That's a very like Italian American, like quintessential, like red sauce local chain. And there's a few different locations around the city, but their pizza is really good. Yeah.
As is all their pasta dishes too, like their
Yeah.
spaghetti, pasta, broccoli, everything. So
Oh,
good.
Jess and the pasta broccoli.
Oh,
What a vibe.
so
What a
good.
2010 vibe.
I love it.
Yeah. So I think if you are coming to Buffalo and say you're getting like an Airbnb or something, and there are some great ones around the city, I can attest to them having personally lived in some of them. But if you're coming and you're coming during the fall and you're planning on like watching the Bills game and having, you know, maybe you're with friends or whatever, and you're going to order pizza and wings, those are some of our favorite places to enjoy that Buffalo classic. But yeah, I think you can't go wrong. It's really hard to go wrong with pizza and wings in the city. Pretty much most of the places you hear about that are local are getting it right. And they're all a little bit different. So it's kind of like a Pokemon situation. You got to catch them all.
Yeah.
So in addition to pizza and wings, the beef on weck, the pizza logs, the smorgasbord, as Jess calls it, there are a couple other local restaurants that are just in the Buffalo area or Buffalo and like closely surrounding that are pretty cult classic for Buffalonians. One of them is Mighty Taco, which is this open late. Sometimes there's a drive-through. Most of the time there's a drive-through taco place. It's kind of like the Taco Bell of Buffalo. Their menu's not as ridiculously expansive as Taco Bell's, but it's that fast late night. I just need to put a taco in me immediately.
I prefer it to Taco Bell. Okay, so while we're on the drive-through train, of course, I have to mention Tim Hortons.
Oh, yeah. Well, this one we can both definitely attest to.
We weren't going to get through this episode without it. So
Nope.
Tim Hortons originated in Canada, but is very popular in Buffalo.
Yes.
Buffalonians cannot get through their day without having their Tim Hortons coffee. I'll just put it at that.
It's true.
I grew up on having their bagels there. The donuts are delicious. The honey crullers were always my personal favorite. Iced cappuccinos are like the thing. I'm not a big coffee drinker because I can't handle caffeine very much, but Kristen can attest to the coffee aspect. But ice caps, everyone would call them, were a really big thing. Probably still are a big thing. And there's a Tim Hortons on like every corner in Buffalo. Like they are literally
gosh, everywhere. You cannot drive 5 miles without seeing another one. I distinctly remember like when I would basically live with Jess during high school and we would get up to go to school in the morning, we'd stop at Tim Hortons and we would get blueberry bagels and you would get like that yogurt parfait thing with the berries in it.
I forgot about those.
And yes, I can attest to the fact that an iced cappuccino is actually a delicious thing. If you have a sweet tooth and you like sweet coffee drinks, I would do a vanilla one.
Tim Hortons is comparable to like a Dunkin' Donuts type of layout.
But I think the food quality is better. And I don't know if it's because it's more local or whatever, but I think it's better. Like their BLT is really good.
They have sandwiches and soups. And
their BLT is really good. My sister loves, and this is like a newer thing. I think they have a pretzel bagel and it's like pretzel bread, like the Le Cellier pretzel bread kind of, but it's a bagel. And she's a big bagel girl. So that's something new to try, Jess.
I will try it.
So we do have a place called Bagel J's.
Which is my personal favorite. Yeah. I actually love Bagel J's more than Tim Hortons. I grew up with it like 2 minutes from my childhood home and it is so good. Like the bagels are very thick there and they have I used to get like a sesame bagel with cream cheese or a blueberry bagel with strawberry cream cheese. And they have these little pastry heart desserts. It's so good. Like the bagel is just like an explosion of goodness in your mouth. Like that first bite.
It's definitely more. Yeah. It's definitely more of like a New York bagel. Like it's not like a Montreal bagels are I feel like a little like crispier, not like as chewy. It's definitely more of like a New York bagel, but they're
Definitely.
definitely more in the Bagel J's, I think is like Buffalo and north of Buffalo because you grew up north of
Yes.
Buffalo and I grew up north of Buffalo as well. And we had them up there. And then when I moved south of Buffalo, it wasn't a thing anymore. So if you're
Not in the
in like
South
the
towns.
north towns, it's basically this is how we talk about Buffalo. We talk about the north towns, Buffalo, and then the south towns. So anything north or south of Buffalo, and that's Buffalo is the epicenter by which we gauge it. Another little quintessential Buffalo food, if you've got a sweet tooth, is something called sponge candy. Now, don't ask me what's in it because we're not entirely sure. It's basically a chocolate, like a square piece of chocolate that when you bite into it has like this caramelly, sticky, chewy, sponge like texture,
It's
which,
like a honeycomb toffee
yeah,
sponge. Yeah.
yeah. And it's, again, something I didn't know wasn't a thing until I moved away. And I was like, yeah, sponge candy. And people are like,
What?
what? It's just one of those things I can't fully explain to you that you just need to trust me on and try it when you're there.
Yeah.
Any grocery store or like candy or chocolate shop will have it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And you just have to try it.
Wegmans has them, and
Yeah.
then Watson's chocolates is the best I've found. And then
That's like,
Fowler's also has it. They
yeah.
actually sell the Fowler's version in the airport in case you are
Oh,
flying out and you forgot to get some.
well, there
So
you
that's a
go.
good tip.
It's not like my favorite thing in the world, but it's also something you just like have to try. And I think if you have a sweet tooth or you're a chocolate lover, you will definitely enjoy it. But
Oh, I think it's delicious. It's so good.
before we get into the plethora of breweries that are also such a quintessential part of Buffalo culture, we have to talk about one more specific food to the area that I'm going to let Jess talk about because
Yes.
it's a family affair.
It is. So there's something here called Chevetta's Chicken. It's a family owned business, distant relatives of mine, actually, which is kind of cool. But they have this interesting setup. So they have a specific place in Brant, New York. It's called, and you can just drive up. You can order like Chevetta's Chicken, and you can get your sides and take it to go.
It's kind of like upstate New York barbecue. Like it's our version of barbecue. So they have like a brick and mortar, but that's not where most of their business lies.
Yeah. So they are mostly like a catering type company. So they will have Chevetta's Chicken pop-ups all over the place. It'll be at like school events or in the grocery store parking lots or, all over the place. So Chevetta's is mostly known for like the marinade that they marinate their chicken in. And yeah, so you get half chicken and you get sides. They have the scalloped potatoes, which I think are the best, as well as the mac and cheese, of course. Their cornbread's really good. They have baked beans, things like that. It's basically, yeah, like you said, barbecue. You can actually buy the marinade in the stores.
Yes,
They
at
sell
Wegmans.
it. Super good. I mean, we used to get that for family birthdays and everything all the time. Like kind of to the point where we get sick of it. We'd have it all the time.
Yeah, it's like the thing that you'd like anytime you're catering anything, a graduation party or a birthday or something like that. Also, anytime your school's doing any kind of fundraiser, I guarantee you it's a Chevetta's Chicken barbecue for sure.
So true. So that's that. I guess Buffalo really likes chicken.
I guess so.
I guess so.
We're big chicken eaters. So another thing that you can find all over Buffalo, and I think that this is not a Buffalo, like this is not something Buffalo owns. There are plenty of cities across the country that are home to some really good breweries. But as I've mentioned, bar culture in Buffalo is a big thing. And of that bar culture, most people are drinking beer. Beer aside, they're an experience. Like you go and it's a fun hang that's actually relatively inexpensive because you'll find in Buffalo that everything is like really reasonable. These locally owned and operated places are super reasonable. So you can grab a beer, sit outside with your friends, listen to the live music. And it's just like a really inexpensive night out if you've got friends in town or if you've got like a date night or something. One of them was literally across the street from the apartment I used to live in. And I guess we can start there. It's called 42 North. It's actually a little newer, I'd say, than like newer-ish. It's still been open for probably almost like 10 years at this point, but it's such a fun place. There's a huge brewery attached to their actual like dining room area, the bar area. And then they have this beer garden attached to the back side ish of it where they oftentimes have food trucks and they have fire pits and they will have live music on the weekends and you can just sit out there. People will sit out there. I mean, like I would be walking home and I would like see people sitting out there when it was like March, April, November. It's like freezing cold and people are just bundled up out there drinking a beer. And I'm like, man, they're
That's
dedicated.
Yeah, 42 North is great. I think my favorite beer there is called Illumination. I think that's the cutest name.
I've not tried that.
Right? Like
what is it?
Throwback to Epcot. Honestly, I don't even know. It tastes really good.
Okay.
I had it in November, so I forget what it was specifically, but I know I loved it and I know it was called Illumination. So
yeah,
I recommend it. And yeah, they do have live music there. And the really cool thing about 42 North is they actually have Airbnbs that you can stay in. There's 4 of them. We stayed in the Prohibition Suite on like a total whim because we found out that this existed and it was all themed like the Prohibition and there was artwork on the wall and you got free beer and you had the view of the beer garden and you slid the huge picture over and you actually saw the inside of the brewery and it was awesome. That was such a cool experience. So if you have like a special occasion or a super huge beer lover in your party and you want to do something really unique, I highly recommend the Lofts at 42 North because that was super memorable and really, really fun.
Some other notables around the city just quickly are the Hamburg Brewing Company, which is also south of Buffalo. A ton of fun. One. Just that super like hometown vibe there.
Yeah, it has a really great seating area out back and outside. And especially if you were here in the fall, that is the one to go to. They have fire pits too. The view's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful there.
A couple of them that are in the city. Big Ditch Brewing is probably I'm assuming it's Steven's favorite because his favorite beer comes from there.
Steven's favorite beer comes from there. I mentioned it before. It's called the Hayburner IPA. Definitely get that. It's so good. And Big Ditch is beautiful. Like they have tons of windows. So there's a lot of light that comes in. Their wings are really good.
Yeah.
It's right in the city and they have really cute merch too. Like Big Ditch just has it together. I love that one. They really do.
Another one is called Resurgence Brewing, and that's over by the waterfront. That one's a lot of fun too. It's really big. There's tons of seating indoors and out. You're right in the city. And it's actually right next door to another favorite place of mine called Hartman's, which is a distillery that does a Loganberry vodka. Oh, we have to talk about Loganberry.
Oh, we forgot Loganberry.
So they do a Loganberry vodka there, and it's made from Loganberry, which if you've never heard what that is, no, this isn't Willy Wonka, and no, you're not crazy. Loganberry is a soda that is exclusive to Buffalo. Again, we did not know this growing up until we moved away. It's sort of like this tart, sweet, bright purplish berry soda situation that you either love or you hate. What?
It's not carbonated though.
No, it's not carbonated.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I think turns people off is they're expecting it to be fizzy and it's not. But so Hartman's kind of takes a spin on that and makes a vodka out of it. So they have their own distillery, but that's also craft cocktails and they do brunch and just like light bites and things. So you could do like a little mini bar crawl and hit up both of them because they are literally right next door to each other.
Resurgence is another great brewery right there. I think that one might be my favorite to go to because they do have a lot of live music. They have a lot of events, like for St. Patrick's Day, they were doing something. They do brunch on the weekends. They'll do food trucks outside.
Mm-hmm.
They have a huge indoor area, huge bar.
Yep.
Huge outdoor area.
Huge
they have
bar.
Weddings there sometimes.
Yep.
So
it's a cool venue.
What's really unique about them is they take or their beer cans have really unique art on them.
Yes.
So they have art. They had this whole line for quarantine and it was Like,
I remember that.
it was hilarious. And they would take all
Yes.
the quirks of quarantine and make it into a graphic artwork to put on the
Yeah.
beer cans. So we were collecting those.
And then one north of the city, since we haven't talked about one north of the city, Brightsmith Brewing is one that I really like in Williamsville.
Never been.
Yeah, I know. It's newer-ish, I feel like, definitely since you lived there, Jess, but it's right in the village of Williamsville, right on Main Street. There's some beautiful windows, and there's a park across the street called Glen Falls. And so you can watch the waterfall coming down if you have a window table. There's an upstairs, downstairs. There's a beer garden as well. I think they do live music sometimes too. And they have like it's a whole restaurant as well. So you can hang out, watch the game, and have a beer, but you can also have like brick oven pizza, which is their pizzas are phenomenal. Like truly so delicious. I took my mom there last time I was home for brunch on a Sunday, and we like shared a pizza and a couple other things, and we just had such a good meal. So I think if you want to have an actual meal and go to a brewery, this is the one to go to, because you can actually sit down, you will have a server, and you can hang out and watch the game, but you'll still like have a full meal. So if you've got a group and you want to sit down for a while, that's probably the one to go to. Got to rattle through these restaurants, Jess.
Why don't we do a little rapid fire? Give the name of the restaurant,
okay,
what town it's located in,
okay,
and then our favorite like recommendations.
Okay,
like,
love this. All right, I'll start with the first one on our list because it's obviously very near and dear to my heart. There are 2 restaurants in Buffalo that are owned by the same awesome, freaking stellar human beings. I worked for one of them, so I can personally attest to this. One of them is called the Grange Community Kitchen, which is in Hamburg, where the brewing company is that we told you about, just about like 20-ish minutes away from the city. And the other one is called Westro's. And that one's a little bit of a drive outside the city into a town called Ellicottville. And Ellicottville is total ski country. It's like an hour to an hour and a half away, depending where you are in Buffalo. But if you are someone who wants to ski, definitely head out there in the winter. This is the place you want to eat. Even if you're just going out for the day to walk around the cute town and visit the shops and things in the summer or the fall or whatever, the views are amazing. It's beautiful there all year round. But if you are looking to ski or go snow tubing or something like that, and you want a warm, cozy place to go hang out and have dinner or brunch on Sunday, the vibes are truly immaculate. The bar program is phenomenal. The food is phenomenal. The ingredients are so wonderfully ethically sourced, and the people there have like absolute hearts of gold. And I just cannot recommend it enough if you are driving out to Ellicottville or if you want to stay near Buffalo, the Grange or Westro's for sure. And as far as recommendations go, I'm trying to think of things they have in both places. So their Grange burger is something that's on the menu at both places. You get that. I promise you, you will be salivating and you will be sad when it's over. And
that's also my recommendation.
You sub the patatas bravas for the greens that normally come with it. You get those crispy potatoes with that burger. Impeccable. The bar program changes all the time. Like they'll constantly be offering different cocktails, different beers. Even the wines come in and out as the seasons come and go. So that is a kind of choose your own adventure, but definitely get that Grange burger. And in both restaurants, we have wood-fired ovens that do phenomenal pizzas. So you can't go wrong there either.
So our next restaurant on the list is called Anderson's. This is one of my personal childhood favorites that has withstood the test of time. Yep. There are many locations for Anderson's. It is sort of like a quick service ice cream place. So what I recommend getting is the beef on weck there. It's really good for a quick service type place, along with the curly fries, and then one of their many ice cream flavors. Yes. They have so many different options. They have soft serve, they have hard ice cream, they have frozen yogurt, everything. My childhood favorite was always the coffee toffee crunch. But they also have ice cream cakes too. So if you have a birthday.
Yeah, the curly fries are phenomenal. They also have the roast beef sandwich that's such a Buffalo thing, and it's actually quite good there. And I think it should be mentioned that it's super cheap, and their soft serve is like, that was my childhood thing, like a twist with rainbow sprinkles.
Yeah.
So good. Next one is Connor's hot dog stand. So here's the
Yes.
thing about Buffalo that I didn't realize was kind of a thing about maybe about Buffalo, maybe other cities in the US, but definitely not a thing about Orlando. We have so many hot dog stands. Like
Yeah.
Anderson sells hot dogs. We have a place called Ted's that's really phenomenal that has
Oh
hot
my
dogs
God.
and the
Yeah.
literal best onion rings of your life. Do not ask me questions. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just go to Ted's and get onion rings. The end. Anyway, there is a place where Jess's family lives called Connor's. It's right over by Lake Erie. And it is like a true hot dog stand. Like it is no frills, picnic tables, like order at a window, hot dogs and fries and milkshakes. And we would go there all the time, just in the summer.
Yeah.
And it was so good. And so just like we would spend the morning and the afternoon at the beach, and then we'd go over there because we were hungry. And it's just like so nostalgic. And one time we even did a 5K with those people.
Yeah.
With sponsored by Connor's hot dogs.
Yeah. Connors is like the quintessential beach town hot dog
Yeah.
stand. And it's just like rooted in family and nostalgia for me, for sure. Like I went there probably within my first year of life and never stopped going. They have Perry's ice cream, which is an ice cream brand that is also specific to Buffalo. If you order a thing of French fries, you get this little tub of them. And my uncle is actually a potato farmer, so he supplies the fries for Connors for a certain portion of the summer. So go support Connors. But definitely, if you have a beach day out at any of the many beaches along Lake Erie, Connors is the place to go for a lunchtime break or to wrap up your day. Riverworks is another place I wanted to mention. This is also downtown, sort of near the waterfront. They have a lot of bar food again. They have really good pizza. They have burgers, they have wings, all the things. But you go inside and it's this huge area. They have a stage. In the winter, there's an ice rink. They have a bunch of like pinball and video games in the side. They have room for live music. And then they also have seating all along the water outdoors. And you'll see like those boats go by where people are doing like boat bar crawls and things. So yeah, that's a fun one to go to.
A few of my favorite places to eat in Buffalo are these like really, really tiny spots that are sort of hidden. But like if you're from Buffalo, you know them. If you've worked in the restaurant industry in Buffalo, it's like everybody kind of knows everybody. And these are kind of the spots where you and all your friends go on your night off. One of them is called Marble and Rye. It's tiny. It's like the vibes are sort of like, I don't want to say like sensual, but they kind of are. It's sort of like very candle lit at nighttime. The bar program is friggin' fantastic. The cocktails are like, I'm a craft cocktail girl. I like something unique and interesting that I've never tried before. And this is the place to find that. If you just want to have some light bites and like shareable plates and stuff, you can totally do that here. Or this is definitely a spot for like a nice romantic date night as well. Love Little Club for almost the same reason. The food is delicious. This is a place you go and order just like half the menu and share it with your friends for sure. Again, like these people are sourcing ingredients so well. The chefs are so creative. This is not the type of place if you are not an adventurous eater, because you're going to want to just try a bunch of stuff and share. Again, these menus change all the time, so I can't recommend like something super specific at these particular places because they're very much seasonally driven. So you just got to go. And then my favorite of all of these is, and I literally put it in all caps because I love it so much, a tiny, tiny little place called Billy Club. And I just have to go there every time I'm home. And they kind of like know me and my friends at this point as the people who order most of the menu. There was a time we went there where they just said, okay, maybe it'd be better if you just told me what you're not getting. It'd be easier for our server to write everything down. Cocktails are delicious. Great wine list. Super like small menu though. Like definitely not overwhelming, which we love. We can just like sit down and go like, okay, what are they doing now? And whatever they're doing is always good. And there are some things that are staples, but some things that just change out seasonally. If the focaccia is on the menu, get it. Please get it. And whatever their pasta of the day is fresh handmade pasta, and it is always phenomenal. So definitely get that too. But that place, you definitely want a reservation. It's very, very tiny. But it is so good. How'd I do?
Amazing.
Great.
All right. So I'll finish up my rapid fires as well. Downtown, there is a place called Grayland, which is a gin bar, which has an amazing aesthetic, great for a night out, date night, especially, or night out with friends. We loved it. I have grown to love gin drinks, so their menu was huge.
Jessica Faye,
So sophisticated,
girl
but
after my own heart.
yeah, their
Love
menu
it.
was gigantic. Like I don't even know where to tell you
Yes.
to start on it
If,
because
if you like gin, just go.
yeah, just
It's
go.
definitely got like this like British vibe that like it's so
Yeah.
all it's like British pub food, but like elevated. And then instead of beer, it's gin.
Yeah,
If
it
that makes
feels
any
elegant.
sense.
It
Yes,
feels
it
very
does.
elegant, and the staff was wonderful. If you need a recommendation, just ask them. They'll know
Mhm.
what the top hits are.
Yeah.
So, another one downtown that I want to mention. This is the place that Kristen and I always go to together.
Yes.
It's called Tapo, and that is just your classic Italian restaurant downtown Buffalo. It gets pretty busy. That is a popular spot, but it is so delicious. They have their beautiful dining area and they have wine bottles all on the walls. And then they also have an upstairs area on the rooftop. Really fun in the summer on certain nights. They have jazz nights. So they'll have live
Mondays.
music. Monday nights, they have jazz nights. And that's such a fun time. And then
Yeah.
for in the winters, they actually do igloos up on the top roof. And we did that for like a Valentine's Day dinner. It was a special occasion. So lots of fun things to look at Tapo for like special experiences or just, going for a plate of spaghetti and a glass of wine. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so fun.
It's definitely like Italian American with a like a step up, I guess, but definitely sitting on the rooftop like Monday nights in the summer and listening to the jazz music is one of my favorite things to do in Buffalo. The food is just so good. You will not leave hungry. The portions are insane. No. And yeah, it's just a good time.
It is. And then lastly, we'll end on a healthy note after all of that.
Honestly, we need to. We'll give that disclaimer though. Like Buffalo food is not necessarily the healthiest, but here's the thing: like winter is long and hard, and we got to put some meat on our bones. Otherwise, we will waste away.
Yeah. So the last place we're going to mention is Cornerstone Cafe. There is a location in East Aurora. There's also a location in downtown that just looks totally different, but still has good stuff. This is the place when I was really sick and I needed to eat exceptionally healthy and was out. This is the place I used to go. They have fresh juices. They have acai bowls. They have vegan treats there. They have sandwiches if you need them, and they have a lot of gluten-free options, vegan options, all the dietary alternative options and smoothies and all things like that. And it's just a very relaxing vibe. So yeah, I appreciate places like that for sure.
I know the owner, they actually have a stand at the farmers market in East Aurora that's on Saturdays, and they'll have coffee and juices there. They don't do smoothies there, but they'll do coffee and juices and things. But she is so sweet, like just so kind and genuine. And yeah, just everything's like super, super fresh. Everything's organic, which is great because you don't like find that a lot, but you'll find like the produce and everything is organic that they're using, which is great. And yeah, it's just good smoothies. They change it up a little seasonally, and you're getting something really nourishing and delicious and healthy. And it was another place I used to be able to walk to from my apartment, and I went there a lot.
So yeah, you can't go wrong. Yeah, you always want to find a good healthy spot to visit over and over with good variety, and
especially if you're
is one.
Yeah, especially if you're eating a ton of pizza and wings, which if you're doing Buffalo correctly, you are. So
yes, it's good balance.
I feel like I'm full and I haven't even eaten any of that.
But I know. Thank you guys for going on this Buffalo journey with us. This was a jam-packed episode.
Yes.
You could probably, I'm sure a lot of you listened to it in smaller portions. If you made it to the end, congratulations. Yes. You will definitely have plenty of things in your back pocket to do if you ever come to visit Buffalo. You really can't go wrong with anything that we recommended in this whole episode because we've tried them all.
Yep.
We are still raving about them, and Buffalo is just such a special place to us. And I hope that if you never even thought about going to Buffalo before, maybe this piqued your interest a little bit because our hometown definitely deserves a little spotlight
Some
because
love.
it's a special place.
Yeah, this was really like our love letter to Buffalo and just all of the nostalgia that surrounds it for us, all of the delicious moments, all of the fun memories and everything in between. And in writing our love letter, we thought, well, we'll also share it with all of you because as we rediscover our hometown, we realize that it is totally a destination worth visiting. And we hope that if you do, you will let us know. If you need more information about any of the places we recommended, please don't hesitate to DM us on Instagram. We are at JessicaFay508 and at positively.Kristen. And if you know anyone who lives in the Buffalo area, who has traveled there, is planning to travel there, has a layover there, send them this episode, share it with them. We would love to grow our ReDIScover family, and we would love to spread the Buffalo.
Yes. I have a blog post all about fall activities to do in Buffalo, New York on the road Jess traveled. So you can head over there. We'll link that in the show notes below too. That only covers a fraction of the things we talked about in this episode, but it can give you a good little layout and to-do list. And I actually expanded on some other things we didn't even get to. Yes, there is more to do here than what we just talked about.
Yeah.
But,
and we also did an episode last year about fall and things to do around us. So we will link to that as well if you want to go back and take a listen.
So yeah, we have plenty of resources for you and our DMs are open. If you have any questions, I would say Buffalo is one of our specialties and one of our great loves. So we hope you love it too.
Yeah, we hope you have found something to love about our hometown. Stay tuned in 2 weeks, Tuesday morning, October 12th at 8 a.m. or whenever you can get to it after that. We are going to bring a brand new month, a brand new theme, as always, a brand new episode, and we're going to tack on a little life update to that episode and give you a little news, a little update, a little information, where we're at, where we're going, what's new, what's coming. I don't know, might be exciting. So stay tuned for that in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for listening to this marathon of Buffalo.
We will talk to you on October 12th. Thank you again so much for being here and for listening. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of ReDIScover.
Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Your reviews are what keep us going, and we'd love to hear from you.
Join us every Tuesday for a new conversation and let us know what you think we should talk about next.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.Kristen and at JessicaFay508. And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
stay frumpy.